The stage was now set, and the night of March 9/10 would reveal the full power of modern aerial warfare. Tokyo's civilians had grown accustomed to the occasional air raid. Sirens, hurried evacuations, and distant flashes of explosions were part of daily life. Yet nothing in memory prepared them for March 9, 1945. Families huddled in cramped homes, clutching children and whatever possessions they could carry. Mothers soothed terrified infants, while fathers tried to maintain composure amidst the mounting dread. The streets overflowed with residents fleeing to designated shelters, but the wooden neighbourhoods offered little protection. As the first incendiaries fell, chaos erupted. Heat, smoke, and fire spread with terrifying speed, forcing people into narrow alleys where escape was nearly impossible. For many, survival depended on instinct and luck. The human toll would be staggering. Tens of thousands burned alive or trapped beneath collapsing roofs, entire families lost in moments that defied comprehension. Those who survived carried the trauma for the rest of their lives, memories of screaming neighbours, roaring flames, and a city consumed by fire etched into their minds. From the air, the raid was a calculated manoeuvre of military precision. The B-29 superfortresses flew in waves, maintaining tight formations to ensure maximum coverage of target zones. LeMay had ordered a shift from high-altitude precision bombing to low-level, nighttime runs. At approximately 7,000 feet, crews released incendiaries in pre-planned clusters. The bombs were designed to fall across residential and industrial districts simultaneously, igniting multiple points and creating a firestorm capable of overwhelming the city's limited firefighting response. Coordination was critical. Timing had to be exact. Delay of even a few minutes could reduce the cascading effect, and pilots relied on radar markers and pathfinder planes to navigate in the dark. Anti-aircraft resistance was minimal. Japanese fighters were few and largely outdated, making the tactical execution devastatingly effective. The raid showcased the terrifying potential of modern technology. The B-29 Superfortress, with its pressurized cabin, long-range fuel capacity, and heavy berm load, represented the pinnacle of Allied aviation. Each plane carried up to 7,000 pounds of incendiaries, including the M69 bomblet, wrapped in gelid fuel that ignited on impact. The bombs were designed to penetrate wooden roofs and spread flames quickly, ensuring maximum destruction. Radar technology allowed navigators to identify city blocks even under complete darkness or cloud cover. This combination of aerial power, incendiary engineering, and navigation precision made the raid nearly unstoppable. Tokyo's vulnerabilities, its timber construction, narrow streets, and dense population were fully exploited, turning technology into an instrument of unparalleled destruction. The human, tactical, and technological angles intersected in one horrific moment. Families fleeing through burning streets, buildings collapsing in synchronized infernos, and waves of bombers slicing silently through the night sky. These perspectives reveal how the raid was not just an act of war, but a convergence of planning, innovation, and devastating human consequences. At the heart of the operation stood General Curtis LeMay, a man whose reputation for meticulous planning and ruthless efficiency defined the US strategic bombing campaign. LeMay had studied every map, every structural report, every civilian pattern in Tokyo. His objective was clear: break Japan's capacity and will to continue the war. He made the controversial decision to abandon precision bombing in favor of area incendiary attacks, arguing that the alternative, continued high-altitude raids, would prolong the conflict and cost more American lives. LeMay faced morale questions but justified the plan as necessary. Every briefing, every flight plan, every target grid reflected his attention to detail. Orders were precise: take off at dusk, maintain formation, release bombs simultaneously, and exploit Tokyo's vulnerabilities to the fullest. For LeMay, the raid was not an abstract strategy. It was a test of human resolve, engineering, and the devastating efficacy of modern aerial warfare. Japanese defences, though present, were ill-prepared for the scale and method of the attack. Anti-aircraft batteries struggled to track the high-flying B-29s at night. Fighter aircraft, though brave, were limited in number and technological capability, many unable to reach the boomer formations in time. Civilians were drafted into firefighting brigades, but the wooden architecture and high-density neighbourhoods made containment nearly impossible. Reports from Japanese military officers described the confusion as incendiaries ignited in multiple districts simultaneously, stretching response forces to breaking points. Firefighters waded into smoke-choked streets only to be forced back by sudden flare-ups. The Japanese command could only watch as entire sections of the capital succumb to the flames, the city's defences overwhelmed before they could mount a coordinated response. The Tokyo firebombing presented profound moral dilemmas. Critics questioned the deliberate targeting of densely populated civilian areas, arguing that the death toll and destruction were disproportionate. Planners, however, framed the attack in terms of strategy. A single concentrated raid might shorten the war and save lives in the long term by crippling Japan's industrial base and morale. The firestorm tactic was not indiscriminate. It was calculated based on intelligence and experience. From a strategic standpoint, the raid succeeded. Japan's industrial output was severely disrupted, urban morale shattered, and the nation forced to confront the vulnerability of its home front. Yet the ethical debate lingered. Scholars and military historians would later debate whether the raid crossed the line from military necessity to deliberate terror, a discussion that continues in studies of aerial warfare and civilian vulnerability. The convergence of leadership, enemy defences and moral considerations set the stage for the ultimate test. The night of March 9/10, when planning, human endurance and technology would collide. Tokyo, vulnerable and unaware, faced a force that combined tactical genius, technological innovation and calculated ruthlessness. The city's fate would unfold in hours of unimaginable fire, heat and smoke, forever changing the landscape of modern warfare. The night of March 9, 1945, arrived with a deceptive calm. Tokyo streets were lit by the soft glow of lanterns, lamps and the fading sunset, while the city's 1.3 million residents carried on their evening routines. Families shared meals, shopkeepers closed stalls, and the distant hum of trams echoed along wooden avenues. Above them, the massive silhouettes of B-29 superfortresses loomed, silent predators in the darkness. By 7:30 p.m., the first wave had crossed over Tokyo from the northwest, flying at low altitude to maximize the effectiveness of their incendiary payloads. The bombs began to fall. Thousands of M69 bomblets rained over the city, each wrapped in jellied gasoline designed to ignite on impact. Roofs of wood and paper were immediately engulfed in flames. Alleyways turned into corridors of fire as infernos spread from building to building with terrifying speed. Civilians fled into the streets, only to find that escape was nearly impossible. Narrow lanes funneled panicked residents toward intersections blocked by burning debris, while collapsing homes trapped those who sought shelter inside. Within minutes, the firestorm was taking shape. Thermals rose in towering columns, generating winds exceeding 100 miles per hour. Flames leapt across entire blocks, consuming factories, homes, and shops alike. Many attempted to wade through canals and rivers in a desperate bid to escape, only to be swept away by currents intensified by debris and flames. Hospitals, already overcrowded, struggled to accommodate the growing number of burn victims. Makeshift shelters in parks and temple grounds filled quickly, but water shortages and ongoing fires rendered relief efforts nearly impossible. Stories from survivors describe entire neighborhoods swallowed in seconds, with cries echoing as the flames raced through wooden blocks like unstoppable predators. From above, the B-29 crews maintained relentless precision. Waves of bombers continued to drop incendiaries in overlapping patterns, ensuring that the firestorm would not lose momentum. Radar-guided flares illuminated key zones, enabling subsequent groups to strike with accuracy despite the darkness and smoke. By the time the final bomber had crossed Tokyo's skies, the city had been effectively mapped in fire. Factories, warehouses, and residential clusters were reduced to ashes. Transportation networks, including rail lines and tram tracks, were severed, crippling emergency responses and evacuation efforts. Japanese military and firefighting units were overwhelmed. Fire brigades, numbering in the tens of thousands, battled block after block, only to be outpaced by the flames. Military units attempted to organize civilians into defensive lines, creating fire breaks, but the heat and chaos forced them to abandon many neighborhoods entirely. Anti-aircraft guns previously positioned to defend strategic installations had little effect against bombers that had completed their runs and vanished into the night. Reports from commanders later described scenes of unimaginable destruction, entire districts flattened, infrastructure obliterated, and casualties beyond any scale previously recorded in the Pacific theatre. The human toll was immediate and horrifying. Estimates by Japanese officials indicated that over 80,000 people perished in a single night, the majority women, children, and the elderly. Hundreds of thousands were injured or displaced. The city's water supply, already limited, was insufficient for firefighting or humanitarian needs, and widespread looting and desperation began to surface as people sought food, water, and shelter. For those who survived the firestorm, the psychological impact was profound. Trauma, grief, and shock became permanent companions. By dawn on March 10, Tokyo was unrecognizable. Smoke continued to rise from countless smouldering ruins, turning the early morning sky a muted grey. Streets were clogged with debris, corpses, and the remnants of burnt homes. Factories that had been the lifeblood of the Japanese war effort lay in rubble, their machinery twisted and melted. The firestorm, though diminishing in intensity, left a permanent scar on the city's landscape. This one night had reshaped Tokyo, demonstrating both the destructive capacity of modern aerial warfare and the vulnerability of even the most populous cities. The consequences extended beyond the immediate physical destruction. Japanese military planners were forced to confront the reality that their capital and their population could not be defended against a determined air assault. Morale plummeted among both civilians and troops, and the psychological shock of seeing entire neighborhoods vanish in flames rippled throughout the nation. For the United States, the raid validated the firebombing strategy, providing a grim demonstration of what could be achieved with modern aircraft, precision planning, and incendiary technology. The night of March 9/10/45 would become a turning point in both the Pacific War and in the history of strategic bombing. The human cost was staggering, the city's infrastructure shattered, and the psychological impact profound. The firestorm was not just a tactical success for the United States. It was a moment that altered the trajectory of the Pacific War and shaped the ethical debate surrounding aerial bombardment for decades to come. The devastation of Tokyo set the stage for reflection, not only on the immediate loss of life, but on the broader implications of firebombing, modern warfare, and humanity's capacity for destruction. From the ashes of that night, the world would reckon with the limits of strategy, the cost of industrialized war, and the enduring questions of morality in combat. The firebombing of Tokyo was more than a military operation. It was a profound statement on the nature of modern war. In a single night, a city that had lived and breathed for centuries was reduced to ash. Homes, workplaces, and communities vanished. Tens of thousands of lives ended in moments of unimaginable terror. The sheer scale of destruction forced humanity to confront the vulnerability of urban civilization and the extraordinary power that technology had placed in the hands of warfare planners. Yet, amid the horror, there are lessons that resonate beyond the immediate tragedy. The raid demonstrated the interplay of strategy, innovation, and human resilience. For the United States, it confirmed the effectiveness of calculated planning, technological ingenuity, and operational precision. For the Japanese people, it revealed both vulnerability and endurance. Survivors would carry the memory of that night for decades, rebuilding lives and communities from the ashes, their resilience a testament to human tenacity in the face of overwhelming destruction. The firebombing also sparked enduring ethical and philosophical questions. Was it a necessary act of war to hasten Japan's surrender, or a moral line crossed too far in the pursuit of victory? The answer remains complex. The raid achieved its tactical objectives, yet the human cost was staggering and the psychological scars would endure for generations. Tokyo became a symbol of both the capabilities and consequences of industrialized war, of what happens when military strategy meets civilian life in its most vulnerable form. Ultimately, the night of March 9/10/45 serves as a reminder of the fragility of human civilization under the pressure of total war. It challenges us to consider the weight of decisions made in the name of strategy and the lives forever altered by those choices. From the ashes of Tokyo rose both a cautionary tale and a story of resilience, a city rebuilt, a nation that endured, and a world forced to confront the devastating cost of modern conflict. The firestorm ended, but its memory lingers. Tokyo's destruction was absolute, yet it was not the end. It was a turning point, a moment in history where humanity glimpsed the full magnitude of its own destructive potential, and where the lessons of morality, strategy and survival would echo for generations to come.